I'm Britten, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Hello, Moon to Moon. How are you? Oh my gosh, this week, I'm recording this on June 12th. And I feel like this Jupiter in Cancer ruled full moon just brought us on such a wave to like a completely different than what we've been in. It's like personal, it's interpersonal, it's transpersonal, it's national, it's global. It's like, what a psychedelic time in the sense that like everything feels connected to everything else. Every conversation I'm having refers back to a backwards and forwards conversation that I'm having, and the themes are coming in so loud and clear. How are you? How are you? How are you? I want to spend a little bit of time with this here at the beginning before I start to talk to you about the conversation that I'm very, very excited to share with you. Yeah, something really wild happened to me. Well, it's been happening over the last few weeks. Like a couple of weeks ago, I shared in my newsletter about how in a psychedelic experience, my guides told me that my true name is the many-armed woman. And that I've been living into that, I guess it's been 3 years. And I never really had shared that super publicly. I've kept my relationships to psychedelics private. And I just like felt really easy to share. Just like, oh, that's not a thing I need to not share. That's part of who I am. It's like, yeah, it's true. Yeah. I took a huge, what's known as a mystical dose, speaking of mystics, a mystical dose with my boyfriend, Matt, 3 years ago. And he had these incredible high-dose mushroom experiences. And I hadn't done it since college when I was just dabbling and we were like watching The Wizard of Oz with Pink Floyd, like just very playful, like, ooh, colors. Not a spiritual experience, still really fun. And I was available to trying that out, and we made it very ritualized. We're on basically like a fast for a few weeks beforehand, like no alcohol and caffeine, and we had things we did, and we were just extremely reverent, and it was fucking amazing. What I learned is that it's the same guides on whether I'm in a psychedelic experience or not. I just was like in a much more clear channel with them. And they had all kinds of themes for me, and they took me on a whole journey. I say they. I've always said they about my guides. It feels like a team from the other side, that side. And I wish I could remember everything they showed me and told me at the time, but I walked away with really powerful language and memories that I put in my journal, and I relive in the storytelling. And they told me that I'm Matt. Really, we were coming out of it at that point, and he was like, well, they're still there. Will you ask them something for me? Yes. Ask them about your true name. I was like, okay. So I tuned in, and they said, the many-armed woman. So I've been living into that. And it means different things in different days and times. And it connects both to motherhood and to my business. And I also shared a lot about the support I get from my business coach and how much I pay her, and just really matter-of-factly sharing about how I invest in myself in ways that normally I feel a little more private about that. I'll probably be judged. Just not consciously, but we unconsciously don't mention things, And as business owners, as thought leaders, as human beings, we are also allowed to decide what we share. And it doesn't mean we're lying, and it doesn't mean something bad has happened. This to me is more of a neutral of I'm noticing that I wasn't sharing, and now I'm noticing that I am sharing, and that it's not charged. It's just what is happening. And just kind of as these things were happening, I was just noticing a general sense of having a lot of my own energy, and just fascinating how we have so much more energy when we're more open. I don't mean open the way I used to be open, where I would spill the beans and tell all my secrets to someone at lunch, and then afterward be like, why did I do that again? Why am I always telling people all my information? Used to be such a painful thing for me about myself, is I would feel like I would just dump out all of my soul secrets or all of my struggles, and then I would share it with someone who didn't treat that information reverently, and then it could become something that came back to me to hurt me. And it was this really shamey, sad feedback loop of self-hurting is what it would feel like then, right? That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about just that sense of taking up more space inside of your own self when more of you feels allowed to be here openly. And then this week, oh my gosh. Yesterday, I've been really holding these ICE raids and the protests so close to my heart, just feeling how big it all feels, and just really being connected to my anger. And also just the stories coming out of it, just feeling so moved by the beauty of people coming together. It's just, I know you know, listener, it's just like, whoa, the heart blows open. Feeling more really does mean feeling more, just like, oh my gosh. And just feeling like how all of this feels so connected to everything that I do. And like sometimes in promos, if the like world events happen, it's just like, it feels like a choice that I have to make between being present to the world and being present to my work, and it was just like, there's no choice here. It's all connected, it's all connected. Like the same grief and wonder that I'm feeling about Los Angeles right now, about Gaza right now. Like it's the same thing that fuels everything that I put out. And like, there's no conflict. There's no conflict. Like, this is me speaking to my inner children, it's like, honey, there's no conflict here. And feeling that like unity of self is just like a really great feeling. And then yesterday, right after the full moon, I just was like, I just knew as I was making this post about Emergence Astrology that I wanted it to come from my personal Instagram account too. Oh my gosh, it's going to be weepy here. I started that account in 2014. I can still see the first post. My daughter's about 3 and 5. And that account has always been a place to share just the wonder of the beings that are my daughters, like just the pleasure of witnessing them and seeing truly divinity in their personness, and like just a place to like curate my devotion to like the cosmos that they are for me. And my career came in right as they were coming into these ages of it being appropriate to give them more space, like more autonomy. And I needed a home for my voice that was coming through. And I never used Britten LaRue at my personal account. I used Sid Azalea as a play on a porn name because it's supposed to be your middle name in the street you grew up on. And I never had a middle name. But my camp name, because I went to these immersion language camps, my French camp name, Lac du Bois name, was Sidonie. And then I was a counselor and worked as Sidonie. I mean, that's another name I have. And I grew up on Azalea Lane, Sid Azalea. And so Britten LaRue was free when I started that account in 2018. No, I think it was 2013 I started Sid Azalea. Anyway, or maybe 2012. Yeah, because Arden would have been 3 in 2012. Okay, we got that figured out. So I started Britten LaRue to have a space of my own. Here I am, like my divorce is not even finalized yet, and I'm feeling this new voice that needs to be spoken, So I claimed that account, and I've never merged my accounts because with every year, my girls were more and more like picky about what photos I would use, picky about how much I share of them. And then eventually asking me not to share on my Britten LaRue account their faces, which is their right to do, So I keep Sid Azalea as a treasure trove of photos of my daughters, basically, of just it's a very high sensation feed because I'm a pretty amazing photographer with my children of catching their brilliance, the themness of them. The themness of them. But I'm still Sid Azalea, And so yesterday I just was like, I'm going to put this post into Britten LaRue, but I'm going to ask Sid Azalea to collaborate. It was just like the sweetest thing. It was like, come on, you can come join us on this, like inviting this other part of me to participate. I never would have thought that this would have been so meaningful, but it was so meaningful. And then I found myself within an hour making a video for Sid Azalea to talk about trying to understand Trump supporters, MAGA supporters in my community. And I spoke to the community and was very respectful. And I don't want to dehumanize you, but I really don't understand. And maybe you'd want to come talk to me about it. Because I know they're out there. I just don't know who they are. It's very weird in that community because in my Britten LaRue world, I feel so free. I know that I'm attracting resonance, I suppose that's ninth house, 11th, 9th. Whereas my third house, people I went to school with, people I just happened to be next to because my kids go to school with them, I didn't really pick them, but yet they're also part of my community. They're part of my world. And I've never really had the voice to speak the way I want to speak. Because it's whoa, Britten LaRue's the one that has that voice. So suddenly by merging that post, I immediately went into Sid Azalea and made this video. And now I'm thinking of other videos to make. And it's oh my God, what is happening? And I'm having all these ideas about local events. And I've never thought about doing local events. I was always thinking global, but also that was rooted in there is no community here, kind of like a belief, an underlying belief. But that's just proven to be not true because over the years, women who went to my school have signed up for my things, So it's why do I think there's not a place for me here? That's a belief. And in my work, I know how to recognize limiting beliefs. I know what this is. So what is it really? And underneath it, there's a fear. There's fear of not being able to belong. So it's I chose to walk away from the belonging, but what if that was all an illusion? And what if I can belong on my own terms, though, as who I know that I am in my fullness, as I'm really sitting inside of that now? It was I needed to get away so I could come back. It's wild. I've the conversations I've been having with others have been showing me just like what a synchronistic time this is. So I'm wondering for you, listener, how it's showing up for you, where it just feels like these spirals of interconnectivity between past, present self, future self, neighborhood, collective. Whew. Yeah. So really big and beautiful. And what's been happening then at a larger level is just like a deeper rooting into emergence astrology as a big deal. You know, I think that I've been very hesitant to like really make it a big deal. Like maybe listener, you're like over it. No, you'd make a big deal of it. But you know, my deepest fear is to come across as like a leader who has all the answers, you know? But it's sort of like, I think I've done everything that I need to do to like basically prove to myself, because the most important thing is proving to yourself, right? Like it's not proving to others, proving to yourself. Do I trust myself that I'm not trying to have other people's answers? Do I trust myself that I don't want to be responsible for other people's answers? Do I trust myself to really lean into being that kind of a leader that's going to make many uncomfortable who want answers? And I'll be able to feel that and I'll stay inside of my own space. Do I trust myself? Yes, I trust myself. So then like the other flip of that then becomes, okay, are you ready to get even louder into how impactful this approach is, you know? So yeah, of course I'm feeling that because I'm promoting Emergence Astrology's doors opening again, you know? Whew, it's just like that, you know, the spiraling around the who do you think you are, you know? Who do you think you are that you can just like make this new approach and call yourself that? Oh, we humans. So then this really wild thing happened, y'all. I'm going to tell you this, and then I'm going to bring us on in. We're going to land it. We're going to land it. It's a long intro. We're going to land it into the discussion. Watch this. So all this has been up, right? So then today I'm like, oh, I haven't made any stories in a bit. I've just been like, whoa, so much has been coming out of me creatively and holding different spaces. I haven't done any stories. I haven't done a lot of stories in a few days. So I'm going to sit and I'm going to do some stories on that post from yesterday with me and Sid Azalea. So as I'm speaking, as I'm sharing about this weaving, I realize that emergence astrology grows from my motherhood. I was just like, wait, what? I mean, it was really there the whole time because like when I'm talking about the belly out babies and the gap tooth babies, see prior episode with the clip or go back to last June's What's Under My Mystic's Robe. Like the absolute delight of my daughters in their diapers with their bellies out. It's like, oh my God. Like, this is bliss, you know? And then Arden had the gap tooth as a baby, as like a baby teeth thing. She had these gap teeth. It was so cool. And I hadn't really thought about how this business of wanting to be supportive to anyone who wants it with rebirthing and transformation is like, I know how to be this because I am their mother, It's like so wild, y'all. Maybe it's obvious to everyone else, but like for me, Emergence Astrology grew from like both my kind of intellectual Jupiter and Gemini with my own magical children, like my own childhood, my own magic self, little girl me, guiding the way, little girl crone, is what Matt says is my style. Where's the adult? The adult is the mother. Oh God, it just like shows how like the unshaming with parenting it's like the last one to go. That like I couldn't see it. It couldn't possibly have come from my motherhood because that's where I shame myself still, I say still as if I'm getting somewhere where I'm not, but like it's where it's most tender and most like hard. But I just feel so proud to recognize this, that like what I'm hearing in my head is my daughters were my first cosmos. And moving through adolescence with them, it's like teaching me so much about autonomy and sovereignty, which is what we teach in my classes, which is what like the Hermitage is designed in Emergence Astrology Year One to like insist upon this sovereignty and to insist upon this space. Everybody's got to have autonomy here, like take some space for yourself to make a baby with yourself. And when we come together, we will know that we're in a room with other humans who've taken some space for themselves. And how good does that feel, And like the primary place in my regular day-to-day life that I've been learning about like holding my own emotional needs, learning how not to coddle, learning how not to make other people give their energy to helping me be comfortable, is like with my daughters. They're my teachers. And it is in motherhood that I also have learned so much about autonomy and sovereignty and like just really, really, really wanting them to feel that I'm right here there for you. And like you're holding yourself, I'm holding myself. Like you don't have to take care of me, but I'm right here if you need me. I'm right here if you need me, but you're also taking care of you. And like, this is your path. It's your trip. Like that's what they taught me in my mystical dose with the mushrooms was like, everybody's on their own trip. Matt's on his trip. You're on your trip. You're both side by side having trips, which is what was actually happening. Because there was a huge part of me that was like, how can I be there for Matt if this is what's happening to me right now? And they're like, you're on your own trip. Matt's okay. Matt's with his guides. Matt is being guided in his own ways. Which is like what I feel like so much about adolescence is being the parent of an adolescent, is like, how do you know that you can feel good about it? How do you know? Like it has to come from an internal compass. It can't come from these strict rules, making them follow I don't want to tell anyone how to parent, but I'm talking about myself. Like, what is the compass that I want them to have for life? you know, is an internal compass. So what is my responsibility? What is my role in being right there? And also, we're autonomous beings and they're on their own pathway. And do I trust the unfolding of their pathway? Do I trust that they have their own guides? You know, they're on their own journey. And giving them that space, you know? So this is like a super, super long intro. I'll make a note in the show notes, like if you want to go straight to the convo, just pop on in a half hour out. But yes. So, you know, Emergence Astrology Year One, I think everyone's been learning is very, you know, less past year, but ongoing is a birth process for me. Like there is the scent of birth on this offer because it has been coming out of me very emergently. And it has not allowed for a lot of overthinking. It really is like not allowed any. Every time I would try to think through it, this offer is like kind of pushed me back. Like, ha ha ha, look at you trying to think this through. Don't you know what this is? This is emergence. Whew, you know, just like really challenging me. This baby, Emergence Astrology. So, I have many things that I offer month to month throughout the year in Emergence Astrology Year One for all y'all considering joining. The things that I had last year will not be exactly the same things as what you will have in this iteration. Last year was very much, everybody in the class was like watching me give birth to it as it was happening. Those are the kinds of people that want to show up for that experience or don't. Because some people wanted to leave, you know. Not that that doesn't happen in other classrooms, because it really does. It just felt more vulnerable when it did with this one. It felt more vulnerable with this one when there would be individuals who were like, I don't think this is for me, because this one has been so emergent. It really felt like a baby, you know? And I just was so desirous to be off template. Doing like out in the wilderness with this. So I think I'm probably going to be always birthing it. Year two, meaning this second iteration of year one, will still be very like honing out the birth process. All y'all coming in, if you're excited by a birthing teacher, the mother, it's still that. And I have a lot more data now. I have a lot more understanding of what came through, especially through these conversations, because I've left them all very autonomous. I have not wanted to go to my students this last year and be like, do you like it? Is it amazing? What do you think? Can you validate me? Can you validate me? Like, no, that's not their job. Now and then checking in just to be sure that there was like a line, you know, like some kind of line, but mostly not knowing and mostly like really not wanting anyone to feel like they owe it to me to prop me up, just like with my teenagers, you know? So the conversations coming through this promo, this is like wild information for me, what you're hearing me receive, because I'm like hearing this for the first time. And one of the really wild things that came through right as we were starting was this picture of a practice called the 2-eye practice, which is what we're talking about in this episode. So I'm going to introduce you now to the 3 individuals who said yes. Like, I offered 3 different options to come for podcast topics, and this one filled immediately. I wanted up to 3 people, and like, this was on the calendar ready to go within hours of me sending the email out. Hey, does anyone want to come on Moon to Moon? Here are the options. So thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Tara. Oh my gosh. Oh, let me introduce these wonderful human beings to you who were so excited to come and talk about the 2-eye practice, which we'll define and we will get into in the conversation fully. So just join us there if you're like this is a really funky, unique thing that came through. It's called the 2-eye practice. You'll get to find out what that is. And if you want to join Emergence Astrology Year One, you will get to receive from it. Okay, Caitlin first here. Caitlin Westcott, the Cosmic Counselor, is a spiritual astrologer and tarot reader based in Philadelphia, offering both virtual and in-person readings. She believes astrology and tarot are powerful tools for developing self-compassion and self-attunement. She enjoys blending these tools to provide guidance and transformative opportunities for self-reflection that lead to soul growth for her clients. Her messaging and support is grounded in both sky and spirit. And links to connect to Caitlin will be in the show notes. She's at the Cosmic Counselor in Instagram. Erin O'Brien is a writer, teacher, winemaker, space holder, and in lifelong relationship with Southern Hemisphere astrology. Her days unfold in quiet devotion, bearing witness to the coming and going of the luminaries and the endlessly fascinating dance of the planets. She lives by the slow magic of the seasons, tending to the wild rhythms of earth and vine. One of her favorite things to do is collaborate online and in person with magical kindreds as the wheel of the year turns. In the sacred space of hermitage and astrology community, she loves to offer and receive connection, fun, wonder, and deep belonging. She can be reached at Mirth Vineyard. And then Tara. Tara is a classically trained singer and vocal pedagogue who believes authentic expression is a birthright. She's dedicated to restoring people's connections to their voices, both physically and spiritually, in one-on-one sessions, and loves creating sung musical invocations to assist mystics in personal transition or ritual. Her work has been described as movingly beautiful, powerful, and ethereal, and you can connect with Tara on Instagram at Voice as the Portal. There are no posts as of right now, but that, like everything else, is subject to change. So by all means, follow her anyway. She hopes you are having a good day and that you know how completely precious you are to the universe. Oh, you can just sense, the brilliant spirits of these humans who come to my spaces. So here you go, listener. Prepare to be delighted, prepare to be moved, prepare to learn about something you've never heard about before. The 2-eye practice, which is a key feature of Year One of Emergence Astrology, the experience. Doors are opening June 13th through June 20th for the next year-long cohort. Enjoy. Welcome to Moon, Erin, Caitlin, and Tara. So happy to have you here. Welcome back, Tara. This is your
Thank
second
you.
time. Yeah, thank you for being here with me.
So excited.
So let's just begin by having some introductions so listeners can learn a little bit about each of you. I'd love it if you could share your name, pronouns, where you're calling in from, anything about your chart that feels alive to share today. And also a little bit about how you remember connecting with emergence astrology, how maybe you found my teaching or my book or however it was that there was like an initial encounter. I love to hear the storytelling. So yeah, let's begin. Erin, go for it.
Well, hello everyone. I'm Erin. I go by she, her. I live in Australia. I'm from Sydney, but I live just north of Melbourne on a vineyard. So I'm very much in the seasonality of things, which is such a draw card for me with astrology. My chart, I'm very mercurial. I have a stellium in Gemini in the ninth and a stellium in Virgo in the 12th. So lots of air, lots of Mercury. I'm very excited about Jupiter and Mercury's ingress into Cancer, just as we come together, and Jupiter is just inching towards my midheaven. So meeting with the three of you is so exciting. I feel like I'm really in alignment right now. So maybe a year and a bit ago, I saw Unshaming the Signs, and I just what an impactful title. And it was the astrology podcast, and I saved it, and I could see it was a very lengthy conversation. So I waited for it to do my seasonal wood stacking. And I think I might have told you this story, Britten, that I thought I would stack wood for an hour or so, but it was a 4 hour conversation, and I stacked wood for 4 hours as I listened to your conversation. And to this day, no wood stacking has ever been so mathematically perfect. I mean, it's really just, it looks like a child has done it usually, but this was quite beautiful and professional looking if I were to be a professional wood stacker. So thank you very much for the visual gift of that. The very next day, an astrologer friend sent me the podcast. So I feel like the universe was going to make sure that I heard that conversation. And then I looked at your work and it looked so beautiful and magical. I thought, oh, if only there were a really lengthy, slow-paced course, which then came to fruition a couple of months later. So I feel blessed that my sort of my new moon wishes for a spiritual mentor and community came into being as I stacked that wood.
Oh, wow, Erin, thank you.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm Caitlin, she, her pronouns. I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Some things about my chart. I'm a Taurus rising, ruled by my Venus in Pisces. I have my Capricorn sun in the ninth house, so my love for finding meaning and astrology is strong. And I have a Leo moon. Currently, Pluto is sitting on my Aquarius midheaven. And of course, Venus just entered Taurus, and that square is existing. And here I am having this podcast with y'all. So, pretty cool. Um, I ended up finding Britten also through the Astrology Podcast, that episode. I had recently started my own business in astrology, but it was like a side hustle at that point. And I was working this job that I just couldn't stand. It was like data entry, and I was in front of the computer all day. So I would just listen to episodes of the astrology podcast all the time to pass the time and continuing to deepen my knowledge. And Britten, hands down, your episode was my favorite one ever. And I've watched so many of those episodes. And I remember feeling like, oh my gosh, here's someone who comes to astrology with such a unique perspective, and that lens of unshaming the signs like really hit me because I always wanted to use astrology to like help people like develop, self-compassion, self-attunement, and that idea of unshaming the signs was just so powerful to me. And so I immediately went and like researched you and followed you and started thinking like I can't wait to get involved in one of Britten's programs. And I've been involved in a bunch. And so when Emergence Astrology was released, what actually really drew me was your lens of astrology, the way you speak about it. It's just so emergent, so inviting. I feel like you really invite people to like think about astrology for themselves. You're like not like a teacher, you're like a guide. That was really attractive to me, but also like the mystical element is what really drew me in because I was really trying to work on like harnessing my own like clair abilities, the mysticism inside of me that I knew existed, but like kind of just I felt blocked from it for a variety of reasons in my life. And I just knew I was like, this is the course I need to take. I'm going to spend an entire year in this hermitage, really getting attuned to like what I want to attune with in astrology, but also like unlock something in myself. And it really, really happened. And I'm just so grateful for like that day of watching you. I watched you for my entire shift on the astrology podcast. And I was immersed in it. I was texting my friends about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I found someone that's so inspiring. So yeah, that is what drew me in. And I've said yes to many of your containers and I've always grown from them. So thank you.
Right, I'll go next. I am Tara. I use she, her as pronouns, and I am calling in from Brooklyn, New York. I am thrilled to be back for a second time. It's like my cup runneth over. Like one time was already a dream I didn't know I had come true, and now here we are. And I am also a Libra rising like Erin, so I'm also enjoying Jupiter's ingress into Cancer and lighting up this Cancerian MC that we Libra rising folk get to balance. um, like Britten, I always think about, your wording for how you relate to, like to your MC, you're a professional, whatever. And, I feel like us Libra rising folk, we're like a professional oxymoron. Like having Cancer in the 10th. Like what does one do with that? Like, oh, I will shine by hiding in my shell and no one can find me. So, Britten, your work has been just so instrumental in changing that for me. And I know that's what I was craving when I, first stumbled on your work and never looked back. It's funny, I remember now the first DM I ever sent you, which was before we had ever had any contact, but you did a story on Instagram that you had like just lost a bunch of followers and you were just kind of doing like a lighthearted story on it. So I just, again, like the strange woman in the kitchen who just listens to your podcasts and reads your books obsessively, but has never interacted with you, I felt compelled to DM you and be like, well, I'm a diehard and I'm not going anywhere. And, it was a prophecy. Who knew? But yes, true to my word. So anyway, to get back to my my other placements, I'm also a Libra moon, which I love and I adore. I love being a first house moon. I love being a Libra moon. Thank you for teaching me to love those things so much. And I'm a big Pisces sun stellium with Jupiter and Venus and Mercury and lot of fortune. And the other thing that I've learned through my time in astrology now is that when you go through your chart and like, you do the delineation technique of like, okay, this placement here is ruled by this planet here, so who rules it? It all goes back to Pisces. So Pisces rules the rest of my chart, as well as containing my chart ruler and my dispositor Jupiter. So very Piscean person here. Okay, how I did find Britten was discovering your beautiful workbooks just by chance at a boutique. tune into episode 174 to hear more about that. So, so I'll leave that there for now. But I will tell another story that is really special and dear to me, which is, again, consuming your work obsessively and anonymously for so long and not really knowing if and when that would ever change. But then when you wrote Living Astrology and offered like the lottery drawing where, if you send your invoice of purchasing it on pre-order, you could win a reading. Guys, I won one of those readings. And my whole life is different because of it, because of just like this wonderful community that has flowed out of it. And I remember like finishing that 90-minute call with you, where I did email you in advance to be like, I might scream like I'm at a Taylor Swift concert when you come on the Zoom, which I didn't. But when that 90 minutes was over, I was, I really went into it like so excited to have my chart read, but I really came out of it of just so lit up about what it was to just like connect with another person that way and just like really hit it off. And I've just met more and more community through your beautiful containers ever since. So this is just a wonderful continuation of that.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for experimenting with Emergence Astrology Year One. Y'all are the first cohort through. And I told y'all up front, like, this is the most experimental, wild thing I've ever done. I'm really not even sure what I'm doing. But it's going to be really emergent. It's going to be really awesome, but I don't know how much I can tell you about it up front. And it's just been so meaningful to now come here to the end. We've got our closure coming up this weekend, and we can really now look back and reflect and wonder, like, what was that? So I would love to hear a little bit about your yes to that kind of mystery. I told you up front, it's not a regular astrology class. And curious how you knew to come in.
That was the selling point, Britten.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I would sign up at university for without a proper description, but it was so enticing, so compelling. I think I would have signed up to anything that you were offering after my woodstacking experience. The idea of pursuing astrology in an entirely different way was so beautiful to me, because I had a bunch of, I suppose, teachers who were really very good, very knowledgeable and talented. And I don't think I realized that a deep connection actually just wasn't there. I think it's perhaps comparable to maybe being in a relationship with someone and feeling like it's going really well, and then you go out and fall in love. I totally fell in love with your approach, and had complete self-trust and trust in you that whatever was on offer was going to be gorgeous. And that faith sort of came into being as I saw the woodpile growing. It was very somatic.
Yeah, I feel a lot of the same way, Erin, to the points you made. But I think like my yes was like I knew it was going to expand me. And I don't know that I can really explain the why behind that. It's just like something I knew. And to deepen my practice and with astrology, with working with clients, to deepen my self-trust, which was absolutely something that needed to be done at that moment in time. So that I could fully believe in my gifts and what like I could bring. And I knew being able to do it like alone for the most part was like really enticing to me. And Britton, I feel like you always like create space for people to make things their own. And that felt very freeing for me too. And so like I knew that it was just the right choice for me at that moment in time in my life. And it proved to be. So yeah.
I can still remember the moment when the email announcing it dropped in my inbox. Because it was as Magician's Table was starting to wrap. And I all I saw was the subject line, which I think was something to the effect of under this Pisces moon, if I'm remembering correctly. And like just like a lightning bolt of like, oh, this is my next offering. I know it is. I know that this email, when I open it, will tell me the next major Britton LaRue experience I am meant to be in. It was just like huge personal gnosis. Because at that point I'd been doing so much somatic experiencing and Vedic meditation that's also operating under the principle of you're going to feel your body's yes. You're going to know your intuitions. Yes. Things won't have to run through the intellect quite as much. So yeah, that was the moment for me. And I never looked back. There was no reason to look back. And I also just remember like as you were going through promo and the town hall about it, just being so clear of like in a few years from now, we're going to look back at this moment with such incredible warmth and fondness. And I think I even said to you on one of the book club meeting, one of the Speech of the Grail Zooms at the time, Britton, I was like, I'm about to sign up, and I know we're going to look back at this moment as like the moment before the great unfurling. Like that phrasing was just like in my head. Like this is the great unfurling, and we're in that like exciting moment before. So
Wow. Thank y'all. Yeah, that came through in the piece about it being a somatic, yes, also came through in the conversation that just came out today with Shauna and Donna, that it's not super logical. Oh, all right. Well, we've gathered here today to discuss one of the practices that came forward as part of the buffet of offerings per sign season. The 2-eye practice as is what came through as the name. Honestly, I feel like that came in like within a week of us beginning. I was in a deep panic of self-doubt, but I knew I wanted something to hold us in a weekly way. I knew we had the daily devotions. We had the sign, like the month of the sign. So there would be teachings that would kind of like hold the month. But I was just like, there needs to be like a weekly thing. And I kept just trying to make it like it's a lunar cycle thing. It's a lunar cycle thing, but it was like, no, it's like weirder than that though. And then I just saw it, like this idea of these 2 eyes, and just hoped that it would land. I hoped that it would come through. I hope that it would connect for anybody. I was so concerned about it that I kept repeating, like, it's okay if you don't, if it's not resonating.
You do say that a lot.
Like, oh, I've really gone over the top with this one. Yeah, so I'd love we haven't fully defined it yet because I'm kind of curious how y'all would define it. And just begin to share some about, I imagine there were different phases with it too, like the phase of like, what is this? Like, and then that shifting into another phase and maybe even another phase beyond that. So I'll just stop talking and let y'all share some, just riff on the experience of this.
Oh, it was very special for me, and the regularity of it was so great. Just that there was something weekly, and such an invitation into the signs and to hone in on one or two signs. So we're invited to close our eyes, but we don't really close our eyes. I love that about your containers, Britten. It's about astrology, but it's not really about astrology. And one by one, we open the eye of the sun in whichever sign it's in, and then the eye of the moon, which is either in the same sign for a new moon or a different sign for squares and oppositions. And I loved that because I had been favoring the new moon, and all of its gifts, and I was really invited into reverence with the square and the full moon. What is the wisdom of these two aspects as well? And then, of course, that links in with the sky watching practice. You look up in the day or the night and see the shape of the moon, and it's in complete alignment with the two-eye practice. And there were days, where I didn't have the opportunity to look up, or it was rainy or busy. And it sort of felt like a double impoverishment to have missed out on the sun and the moon. And there were a number of times I'd come back, and I always listened at night before bed. And it was a double enrichment, actually, at the end, that I got to experience the feeling of the luminaries, but also the signs through the practice. And that always led to Neptunian dreams. For all of the future students, if I would encourage experimenting at night just to see what is possible in the dream state after touching that sort of astral plane. I always found it more powerful for me at night. But yes, so we close the eyes in order to gaze upon the inner garden. And it's just so hungry for our attention always, because we're so outward looking in our woken state. And what can be discovered about the self and our own talents and our own preferences and our own living of the signs is really very powerful and magical. So I was really taken with that aspect of the seasonal offerings.
Yeah, totally agree, Erin. I think for me, it was a great practice because it was like ritual, right? Like Britten, you referenced like it's something that's happening every week, and that's something as a Taurus rising I love. I love a good ritual, a good routine. And I think for a long time, like, I was relating to the moon and what it was doing based in my chart. Like, where's the sun? Where's the moon? What house is it lighting up? How am I being impacted here? But I think the two-eye practice helped me have like a much more intuitive and energetic lens. Like, I feel like I'm very in tune now with the lunar cycle in a way that I wasn't prior to having the two-eye practice. And for me, like, I was really looking to have like a deeper relationship with like my guides outside of the tarot, because that's how I was always communicating with them. And what I found in this practice, like, and I feel like the Mystic's Pathway stuff was like my guiding lens to like accessing this. So you referenced Britten, like it changed over time. It did, as like I went through each Mystic Pathway every month. Like the practice of the two-eye practice like changed for me too. But it ended up being like, I think, a very embodied, like soul opening experience that gave me like access to this mystical self that I hadn't yet fully trusted. And what I found most surprising was like how much it activated my clairs that like I think I was having trouble accessing before. My claircognizance, my clairsentience, my clairaudience, it all came through. And it's just so beautiful. Like I can remember like just sitting there and I would envision it. And I kind of like would envision my chart too. And then like messages would just start coming through. And it didn't feel like it was necessarily from me. And then eventually I started like adding my own stuff in, which is what I love about what you do. And I felt like I need to do like automatic writing after this because like that's how I'm going to record it. And like I have this journal. I know no one listening can see it, but this journal is full of everything from the two I practice. So like I came out of that with a full journal and like I'm very excited to go back and read over it because some of the things like I don't think I would have accessed outside of the practice. And it was being in that ritual every week and doing it and committing to it. I think that really made a difference for me personally.
Yes, I resonate so much with everything you just said, Erin and Caitlin. Yeah, same. I think those are just like really beautiful recapitulations of what this practice is and what it offers. Britton, I think it's so funny that you're like, this is the weird thing, and it's cool if you don't like it. I never would have guessed that in a million years. Because to me, it almost immediately stepped forward as like, this is the core of what year one emergence astrology is, and everything else is organizing itself around this core. Um, I feel like if I could only have if I only had the two I practice, it all would have been worth it. And I would have said yes just as enthusiastically all over again. It functions as so many things. I think it has this incredibly mutable gift to step forward and be what you need it to be in the moment. Um, as Caitlin referenced, and I did start to play with it and amend it. So, for example, one of my most profound sessions with it was when I realized I don't have to only do it for new moons, full moons, quarter moons. I could do this for any sun moon combination I want. If I want to come into a greater, deeper personal intimacy with these energies. So, one of my most profound practices was when I did it for Sun in Pisces, Moon in Leo. I'm so grateful for that. So, again, the practice is what it can be, whatever you need, whenever you need it. I do plan on going through and doing it again this year, and I know what will come through will be different because I've already lived one spiral of exploring these energies this way. So, I'll be ready for my next, cosmic homework assignment, and I know the practice will reflect and hold that. Um, it's such a great practice for personal sovereignty because everything that comes through is yours. It's for you. It's for your chart. And yeah, I think one of the things that's really stepped forward so strongly for me in these containers is if you don't live your chart, who will? Like, it's you. Like, show up and be the earthling who does this while you're here. And I think the two I practice is just such a magical tool into that and into navigating that. And I also found the weekly rhythm, it like re-magicked my relationship with time and the seasons because you're paying so much more attention now. And I saw like the sunlight is a different color in Libra season than it just was in Virgo season. And it also has this gift of it gets us out of this kind of like post-industrial capitalist, like Monday through Friday business week, and then the weekend, and only special days or holidays or when you're off. No, no, like any day's a special day. Like, oh my God, the moon just changed signs. I know it's just Wednesday, but come on, people, this is amazing. Like, it gives you that back. Yeah, it just remagics every day and every little beautiful micro season. We don't just like tune out and miss it.
Thank you all.
I love that, Tara.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
You
love to
just
hear more
out-Tara'd
anecdotes.
yourself.
I would love to hear more like about any specific ones that y'all remember in particular.
Oh, Gemini. Gemini sun, Gemini moon. I was spirit of Gemini coming out of that. I felt like my identity took a back seat while spirit of Gemini pushed me through the day. I was all the textbook Gemini things. It's amazing how access, I don't know, Caitlin and Tara, if this was your experience, but access wasn't always the same each time.
Yes, I
You
can
know,
relate
the
for sure.
meditation, the depth of the meditation varies. And you try to avoid disappointing feelings if it remains shallow, and then really celebrate the deep access points. But when, I imagine we all wait for our own moon, our own sun, with special anticipation, even though we love all the signs. And when that anticipation occurs, it's all the more meaningful and impactful when it happens. And Caitlin, I love how you brought up the clairs. That I think that would be one of my favorite mystical pathways when we talked about the different ways of seeing and hearing, etc., feeling. And I think I discovered that clairaudience was the one coming through for me most strongly at that time. And it certainly did during the two-eye practice as well. I think we were invited in a clairvoyant kind of way. I think that's often how many of us work with that sort of meditation. But for me, it was more of a clairaudience experience, like a two-ear practice. I've got my ears lighting up. So that was really interesting to take the initial invitation, and and as we've already said, there's such a deep, sincere invitation to make the thing our own, and so that's how it became my own. I certainly went through the eyes, but the auditory quality was very powerful for me. But yes, I also think that it's, while my own sun and moon sign, it's no surprise that it was very, very inspiring and uplifting. Different times and different practices will surprise you. I think the signs that I deeply love but didn't really anticipate having a profound experience with did surprise me. I think it was one of the squares which really invited me into that reverence for what is, often talked about as a difficult aspect. And I loved rethinking that and reimagining that.
Yeah, I totally resonate with the idea of like certain ones feeling like more potent. Something came through with every single one of them, but I think the one that hit me the hardest, like I can remember like being very emotional after it. And like after I finished my automatic writing, just sitting and reading and like I took a picture of it and sent it to like my best friends and like people that like know me really well, because it was just so impactful. And that was the full moon in Taurus with the sun in Scorpio, which makes a lot of sense. I have my journal open to it now, and but I agree too. Like I feel like the third quarter moon one always surprised me. And it was always a little bit like almost stern, which like kind of makes sense, right? Well, because you're like, it's the releasing part, right? And it was kind of coming through being like, let this go. And like as a Taurus rising, I'm not really good at letting go. So sometimes it would feel confrontational, but I always like knew like, oh, like, well, this like is coming up for me to like sit and think about. And that just helped my own growth so much to like face things that were coming through that maybe I didn't really want to hear. But I mean, that's how we grow, right? So that definitely stood out for me. But I hadn't had a relationship really with that phase of the lunar cycle until this practice. Like I was always focused on new and full moons. So like deepening my relationship with that phase was, I think, really important and something I had to do. But yeah, I loved the full moon in Taurus and the sun in Scorpio so much. So anyway.
I love that. Yes, again, huge resonance with the experience you both have named. I think the magic of the insights that stepped forward were really, for me, so surprising in how they kind of supplemented and corrected for any kind of delineation ideas out there that make you feel like you're not really going to have a big relationship with certain sign energies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, any parts of, your chart that maybe you came to see as, oh, it's an empty house. There's no placements there. Can't really matter. Oh, it's not my big three. Like, oh, whatever the circumstance is, where, maybe some of the information out there, we kind of start to like neglect that part of the chart, or even just it feels remote to us. Maybe it's our DC or something like that. And it feels like, oh, I can't quite have a really like imminent, alive, embodied somatic relationship with like these signs over here. I felt like the two-eye practice just like blew that open because like, Britten, as you say, it's chartless astrology. So suddenly, and Erin, as you say, suddenly everything is worthy of reverence. I love that word reverence for this. Oh my gosh. Everything is worthy of equal reverence and attention. And that practice just blew so much open for me. And also, Erin, I loved how you mentioned how like even the squares felt different. They don't always feel like tension or conflict. Like as the practice went on, I could see how like the different houses of my chart would kind of light up to show me like, oh, I'm down here supporting this other house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here doing this work so that this other house, shines all the more brightly. And I feel like one of the great gifts I got from the two-eye practice was in terms of the things I'm trying to accomplish myself, like embody more, be more of X, be more of Y. I feel like the two-eye practice showed me like the back doors and the secret passages to what I'm really trying to do. Like it's a big thing to just tell ourselves like, well, we should shine more, or I should be more assertive, or, like that's just like a big assignment to give yourself, especially when you have no somatic reference points for what being that person operating that way actually entails. But like with the two-eye practice, I could see it's like, oh yeah, I'm really feeling into in one of the Libra season ones where to really have a 10th house that really does shine and function. The key to that is in the first house. It is in, that very personal first house Libra moon. Can I love it unconditionally enough and commit to it bravely enough where I really will be that at the top of my chart too, not just in my personal first house space. Because that really is what the top of my chart wants for me. That really is my cosmic assignment here, is to let that first house moon and then like float up to the MC and not try to hold her back and shut her back down below the horizon line.
So beautiful. Yeah, I'm curious. It feels like the squares are kind of coming out as a really special piece here. And I love to hear that. I was those are always rift, emergently, but there obviously were questions that were repeated a lot. I'm curious if there were certain questions that felt important or extra impactful at illuminating something.
Oh, the wording. I often heard, what is the intelligence of this square? And when I first heard it, I had a really positive association with the word intelligence and a bit of a negative association with the word square. And it was super fascinating to see them start to work really synchronously together. that yes, the square has deep intelligence to offer, deep wisdom actually, and perhaps even more interesting because it's so unexpected, or it's not where your focus has been. Um, and I see such a friendship in the square now. I had so much ritual around new and full moons. But yeah, I feel like as I listen to them again, as you said, Tara, that's one of the amazing benefits is that the content is yours to keep. And you can continue, you can start all over again as the new year. We started in Cancer season, so as Cancer season starts again. Um, I do feel as though there's a new relationship that I want to explore with myself and the squares. And I have some mega squares in my chart. There's parts of my chart that look like a children's drawing. There's so much going on. And, if we whistle down the course to the tiniest thing, it's a course in self-love, which is, self-trust and acceptance and all of those things too. And how can I love what I think are easy aspects and not love as much the quote unquote difficult aspects. And so I'm very curious about my Gemini Virgo squares, and entering into a deeper relationship with them.
Yeah, I totally agree, Erin. I think I'm going to reference back to the idea that I mentioned earlier about it being confrontational sometimes at the square piece. But that idea of what's the intelligence here? There's intelligence and confrontation. Dig deep into it, Caitlin. Dig it out. Let's go. So yeah, that's that really hit me. And then Britten, I also just loved how you used your wording to guide us through it. That idea of open the sun eye. What's coming through? And you gave us space to do that. We could pause if we needed to. Then you guided us to open the moon eye, and then we opened them together. And the process of that. So the way you even guided that, even though it wasn't a question per se, I just thought that was really powerful to do, to see through the one lens, see through the other, and now put them together. And that's how the messaging came through too. It built one after the other for me. And I totally agree. I am absolutely going back and doing this again, all the time. Having access to this is forever is so important to me. And I'm excited to see what comes through again this year. Like Terry, you said earlier, it's going to be different. We're moving through the same cycles, but we're at different phases in our life journey. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I love everything you both said. Again, shocking. But yeah, I think what stands out for me, Britton, about your language choice is language that is not repeating the kind of implicit biases, that we accept as normal. It's kind of like a blank slate from a projection standpoint of, okay, anything we encounter is going to have intelligence. It's not uh-oh, buckle up, it's a square, people, it's not and I think that even then helps us, for example, if it's a practice for us where we know we're going to have a lot of placements that are in a square, or maybe just placements or signs that for whatever reasons, we've struggled with or have been taught to see as difficult, your language is already inviting us into this neutrality of, no, everything has a gift. We can leave any preconceptions at the door and just be completely open to the intelligence of the moment and what wants to come through. So I found that to be a beautiful, helpful lens that then I can just carry with me everywhere.
Mm-hmm. I found out later that is a ancient Egyptian tradition around Eye of the Sun and Eye of the Moon. And I'm so excited now that I'm done with creating them so I can go study this, because I found out and then it was I closed the book because I didn't want to be told what it is.
I get that.
before we could go just like experiment without like an idea of that. You know what I mean?
I love that you're a teacher like that, but also a student.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Sometimes I was like envious, like I want to do this too, but I'm going to stay with holding the voice. But it felt so good to honor the luminaries together, you know?
Yes. So actually, I did have that as one of my talking points. I think about what makes it special is this focus on the two luminaries and seeing them from every angle. Like we're going to go through a whole year of just seeing them, every facet of them, every combination. And what stepped forward for me about that is like, wow, to be in contemplation of nature's luminaries gives us such an opportunity to unpack and heal our own relationships, our own internalized relationships with like, what does it mean to shine? What does it mean to be visible? Because everything in the natural world exists without bias or artifice or apology. So you have these examples you can learn from, and it's so helpful to consider what is the sun's luminosity like versus the moon's in any given moment, in any given combination. You know, what does it mean to throw light and heat? What does it mean to receive and reflect light and heat? Um, yeah, I found that as a really fertile entry point for unraveling a lot of my own internalized conditioning. And, you know, we're all, you know, as soon as we have our senses open, we're being inundated with messaging about who is and who isn't allowed to shine and why, what are the prerequisites for shining, what are the disqualifiers for shining. So I thought this like deep and thorough contemplation with the luminaries was so helpful for that.
Yeah. Anything else that you wanted to say about the the 2i or how it connected to anything else that you're like, oh, I really wanted to bring that up while we met before we move towards closing?
I just love the pure smorgasbord nature of each season. You know, we didn't really know what was coming, and I would have been so thrilled with a quarter of what was provided. And so it was just abundant in invitation into so many ways of experiencing the signs. The 2i practice was one. And it was just, I mean, I've never studied like this. I loved school and university, but the deadline competitive nature of it never sat well with me. And this is a deadlineless competitivelessness space. And who knew that I just needed those things to be removed and be truly passionate about the content without any thought of result. And that is constantly implicit in the way that these elements are offered, is that it's at your own pace. If you want to or not, you are welcome unconditionally. There's no sense of, I'm so sorry I didn't do it. There's none of that. And it's actually my favorite course I've ever done for those reasons.
Yeah, totally agree, Erin. I mean, there's just such a wealth of information and opportunity within this course. And I'm a Capricorn sun. I love studying. I love school. I get things done. And I haven't done everything in there. So there's still more for me to explore, even though like the container's technically finished, right? I did do every 2i practice and every mystic's pathway. But there's so many things left for me still to explore, which is exciting. It's like a gift that keeps on giving even after the year is up because of just your wealth of generosity, Britten. Like, it's just truly incredible. And I also just wanted to add that, like, my confidence and my ability to know what's true for me without always needing the external confirmation and validation, sometimes the Leo moon once has been huge for my growth and my ability to, like, have confidence in what I'm doing and putting myself out in the world now with Pluto on my MC. So thanks. No more hiding.
All timing is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And we did organically hit all the things I was hoping to say. And I absolutely agree about like the incredible abundance of material and just holding that deep self-trust of like, I will click on the video I'm meant to click on at the moment I'm meant to click on that, and whenever that happens. And something else that I've noticed just about timing as well. And I wonder if it comes from having so much Pisces and just mutability in general, is sometimes I feel like I'm actually, when the astrology is actually happening, I'm meant to be out there living it, like doing the yang participatory things. And then I can, I'll actually do maybe the meditation after the fact. And it's just as rich. I found, like you said, all timing was always perfect, whether I hit it right on the actual day or whether it was further down the road. The timing was always perfect because you're learning and integrating always. And yeah, sometimes I just felt there was an extra richness in, okay, I'm going to go out in the world and get the light codes and live the astrology as it's coming up, but then I'll integrate it through these practices.
Thank you all so much for sharing. How can listeners connect with you beyond moon to moon?
Well, I have a vineyard, and it's called Mirth Vineyard, Merth, and that's often how I communicate with people. I would so welcome community to be in touch. We haven't touched on it a lot in this conversation, but that is one of the great treasures of this experience is the community that's come into my life, not just the spiritual mentor, but the community that's come. I've done a few of the containers too, and I'm so blessed with the richness of astrology community, which was my heart's longing a year ago. I couldn't have imagined being rewarded for my interests in the way that I have. So yes, I absolutely welcome that and love to connect and talk about all things astrology and not astrology.
Yes, to that about the community piece, Erin. I walked away from every one of Britten's containers with friends, and I longed for an astrology community like so badly in my life. So I'd love for people to connect with me. You can find me on Instagram, the Cosmic Counselor. There are underscores between the words. I have a website, and something exciting for me is that I'm finally leaping into this work full time. June 13th is my last day working in a Montessori school part time, and that's it. So I would love people to contact me, find me. It would be wonderful. So thanks.
Congratulations, Caitlin. So
Thank
exciting.
you. The timing of this, right?
Yeah. You can find me at Voice as the Portal on Instagram. My cup runneth over with this community as I'm always waxing on about um, just blessings upon blessings. And it's amazing how when you find this type of resonance, even just in Zoom squares, that frequency stays with you, even when you're back out in the world, in the 3D world, like because you have your people, and even if we're not close geographically, like you still have that frequency of like soul family that goes wherever you go. it's really incredible. I feel like since Magician's Table, I've never felt like alone. I'm not alone. I'm never alone. Or alone but not lonely. It's magic. Um, so yes, Voice is the portal on Instagram if anybody wants to connect about anything. And in terms of having an offering, I love all things voice. And again, these containers have just been so instrumental in remagicking voice as a birthright, reclaiming that, and I believe so much in helping other people with any of the tools at my disposal in reclaiming their own birthright to their voice, whether that's through the actual physical apparatus or just things in your life that need to be expressed, and finding the tools to do that. I love singing and making music for ritual purposes. Singing as a means of like celebration and elevation and reverence and just bringing vibration to these things that live in us. So that's been just like getting to sing about my fellow human beings and the things they care about, and then like they have this recording for forever for their own practices. I just love it. So yeah, so I do that too.
I have been the recipient of Tara's voice. Oh my goodness. Her ethereal, sublime vocal talents. My goodness. I couldn't recommend enough.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Erin. Thank you. I'll slip you your 20 later. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Thank you all so much for being here. I so appreciate having you on Moon to Moon, sharing your wisdom. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Caitlin. That was really special receiving your reflections and really seeing you in the devotion of your practice. Listeners, you can connect to each of them through the links in the show notes. And so, dear listener, if you are wanting to become part of this space, I'm encouraging you to stay educated with all of the promo, really learn about the space as much as you can, understanding what it is and what it is not. But ultimately, I think that one of the biggest things that's really been coming through in my promo-related conversations with current students is that this, yes, was somatic. And honestly, probably for all the people who it wasn't for, I think it was probably from a different kind of yes, I think that over the whole of the spiral that is Emergence Astrology across 3 years, one could probably point to a lot of really logical reasons why this would be a good idea for you, especially if you would like to feel really grounded in your relationship to astrology and into community as you fortify into a truly unique voice in whatever that you do in this world where astrology is supporting you. Like, logically, that sounds like a career A+ move. You know what I mean? But the thing is, on the way there, you're making a baby with yourself, and that's confrontational. You're in devotion. You are showing up. You are doing the things that create the scaffolding in an internal way for you to really hear yourself. And that's going to mean the chaos of trusting yourself. That's going to mean the discomfort of not just doing what you're told like a good student and memorizing or like learning the things. The compass has to come from within. That's what we're developing here. And year one is a huge boost for that. And it's part, though, of a whole 3-year experience of like really, 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 really laying that down. Nobody's asking anybody to be an astrologer here. That's like not even what we're doing, although many people may be astrologers here. But this is astrology moving through the whole of your life and fortifying you in like that deep, deep, deep well of self-trust that grows from that voice of really living in the world from your true voice. And that takes time. Like 3 years sounds like a long time, but it's actually not a long time. So, many, many, many individuals, I've now been doing this for 7 years. For many people, it is a multi-year process of being in my world. Not to say there aren't other teachers. Usually students are studying from many teachers at the same time, for different skill sets, different modalities, different questions, different types of people who come together. It's not just me, but what I'm saying is it can take time to like really feel like, oh my gosh, my voice is coming through. It's not a quick thing when we're at the age that we're at. It's taken all these years to be where we are. Are you available to be patient with the process of your own voice coming forward, And so whether you want to come, just try 1 year, or whether coming in the door, like I am committed all the way 3 years, like I want to give this to myself. Like it is a devotion. It is showing up. But like, it feels so good. This incredible group of humans. Did you hear these women? Did you hear Shauna and Donna at the last one? Like, these are the kinds of humans that come into my spaces, especially my astrology learning spaces. So, I think that's all there is to say today. I had kind of a long intro there. Thank you for witnessing me. What a time. What a time. My goodness. Thank you. This is that point in the podcast when I ask, if you have never left a rating or review, I would love if you would do that. Would you be willing to do that? Would you be willing to do that right now? I'm almost to 100. It would be so amazing to get there. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending a big hug out into the collective from my heart. And I will see you at the next one.